Hey folks, today I show you two builds that involve pieces of the shadow set. This is actually the best that you can do with the shadow set or parts of the shadow set equipped, and unfortunately the best you can do with the shadow set is not to use the 6-piece bonus. And as you can see here, elites and trash are dying extremely fast, and this setup works perfectly well even in 4-player groups and even with lower Paragon. I only have 800 Paragon levels here and only level 50 to 60 gems. The weapon is with intelligence, and so this really works extremely well for Torment 10 farming, and at the same time you get a good amount of Death's Breath. You get, I was able to get 800 per hour with the power reduced setup on 800 Paragon levels. So if you go for full power, have very good gear, high Paragon levels and high gems, you will be able to get 1000 or something like that Death's Breath per hour. This is amazing for a Demon Hunter, and it is much faster than the respective Natalia setup, where you can also use the Sage set, and it's much more enjoyable because it's extremely fast. You can even use that setup in bounties, and then you can just replace the Sage items with shadow set items, have the full piece bonus, full set bonus, so you can kill elites also extremely fast even without Fan of Knives. Alright, the next setup that I will show you just in a few seconds is also involving shadow pieces, but also does not use the full 6-piece bonus. Let's jump to it. Let's see some gameplay for that. This is here. This is, if I give it a name, I give it the name of embodiment of laziness, because you're not actively doing a lot with this setup. You're walking around, you aggro monsters, you survive almost everything, even in high rift levels. And you see, these are dangerous monsters, and I am still able to stand there and not attacking. I'm not healing actively with life per hit or something. And things are blowing up with, once again, Fan of Knives. This setup is extremely powerful. So far it cleared G94 in Europe. It wasn't me that cleared that, it was Impreza, but I'm pretty sure it can go much higher. The theoretical damage is basically at the same limit as the one with the Shimizu spec. And open your ears, hardcore fans, this setup can have so much defense. If you trade some offense for defense, I was able to get up to 4 billion toughness in that DPS setup. This is amazing, and the current setup that you see running here is only with like 300 million toughness. It is extremely easy to play, it's extremely easy to gear for, and at the same time it rewards us with a lot of profit. Like, we clear high rifts, we can get positions on the leaderboard, and we can, if we optimize for that, make some pretty fast gem ups in the 80 to 90 range, depending on your gear and power, of course. I hope you enjoy those two different setups, and please subscribe if you like that stuff. Let's jump to them. Hey folks, as I said, this is the guide for the Death's Breath farming shadow set, and just take a quick glance at the stats that you can see here. You will see that the toughness and damage are pretty low, and the dexterity is very low. And if I continue that, you will see that I'm using, for the gameplay parts, level 52 Pain Enhancer. And I will also use the level 61 Toxin gem that you can see here, but I'm blind at that moment where I select it here. And since I don't have a low Bane of the Trapped, lowest is 100, I use a Bane of the Powerful to showcase, which is of course weaker in that setup than any Bane of the Trapped, but I don't have a low one. But that doesn't really matter. Let's find some gameplay to explain it. That could be fine. Here you see me vaulting around, trying to find an elite, and here's one, and boom, blown up. That was Fan of Knives. And here's the next one, and Fan of Knives again, and there's no power pylon or anything involved here. It's just about making a critical hit with a buffed Fan of Knives, since this skill in combination with the Lord Greenstone fan is actually the strongest damage that we have in this game currently as Demon Hunters. This setup here is designed to farm Death's Breath at a good rate, and with the setup and gear you have seen for a very short moment right now, I was able to get 800 per hour, and this is with 800 Paragon levels, low level gems, and the weapon I'm using in that setup right now is actually with intelligence. This is because one of the items has a augmentation of 450 dexterity, and since people tend to complain, I was just using an intelligence weapon that actually has, even if I take the augment into consideration, I lose 450 dexterity as well. So whatever, it works pretty well, and you can see the mobility is extremely high. You have in-geom buff down there in the buff bar, and I'm vaulting like a madman and killing elites on the go, and also I kill the trash pretty fast. See, could have seen that. Sometimes you can see that, and that the stuff is just dying when I'm passing by. And this is because the Pain Enhancer and the Toxin Gem actually do a lot of damage with the with this setup, or with any setup that is buffing the damage in general. See, sometimes it happens that you don't kill elites instantly, at least with low Paragon. When I'm going on full power, it doesn't happen anymore, but that doesn't really matter. And boom, gone again, a lot of Death's Breath. So, but what is this setup all about? How is that really working? And how far can that go? I don't know how far it can go. I reckon that with, like, when you get a Goblin pack and have high Paragon and use perfect gear, you can even augment it and use high level gems. You can actually have like up to 1000 Death's Breath per hour or something like that. I do believe Wizard and maybe Monk or Barb are faster in farming Death's Breath, but we are talking about Demon Hunter here. Many of us want to play Demon Hunter, we want to have Demon Hunter loot, and we don't see a reason to gear and play any different class just for some lousy Death's Breath. So if you want to farm them at a good rate, just use this setup. I will explain it after that Rift Guardian is dead. Shouldn't take too long here. See, the damage that he's taking over time there, that was not nothing. And this is on low Paragon, or relatively low Paragon and low level gems. Okay, let's jump to that setup. I have that here on that character, and let's go for the items first. The items you see here are, and this is the key stuff, this is the Shadow set, and 3 pieces of the Shadow set, including Ring of Royal Grandeur. That's why I get the 4-piece bonus. And actually I'm only using 3 of those items because I want to have the permanent shadow power with all runes, because this buffs my toughness a bit, and most of all it buffs my movement speed, and it really looks cool. I like that. These are the best looking wings in that game. Alright, so 3 pieces of the Shadow set. I have the pants with augmentation, as I said. It's a pretty high augmentation. These are perfect pants for everything you can wish for as a Demon Hunter in that set. So, and that's the reason why the weapon I use, in-geom, is without dexterity, it's with intelligence. This is basically the roll that you want to have. Preferably you want to have the orange effect to be at 10 seconds, but it really doesn't matter that much. I have 10% damage, I have cooldown here, so other than intelligence, that's a pretty good item. The other set in use is the Sage set, of course. These are non-ancient items. I was just crafting some with the stats that I wanted, and got lucky on the gloves because it's not too easy to get trifecta ones like that. And the helm is a Leoric crown to buff the cooldown reduction. That's actually the only stat that you have to take care of. It's not that important, but you want that at a high level. And in this case, I do have over 50% cooldown reduction. And this is because you see here it's in-geom, and since it's using Fan of Knives, a logical conclusion is that you use the Lord Greenstone fan in the cube, which of course doesn't allow us to use Dawn anymore. So we do not have permanent vengeance unless we go for very high cooldown reduction, including the in-geom effect and so on. But even with in-geom it's not permanent. But this is Torment 10. This is a Torment 10 farming spec. We don't need permanent vengeance. So, and for the mobility, I use Chain of Shadows. This is really cool because I use just Impale, and then boom, boom, boom. No cost to Impale. You can use any rune that you like, which is actually pretty cool. That belt is very, very good. Then for the braces, this is the Nemesis braces to get more elites. You can opt for the Varsician Arm Guards, but I have them in the cube here, and you can interchange them as you like. Offhand is a holy point shot. There could be a better one with additional 15% Fan of Knives damage. I don't have that. It's not really needed. It would help a little bit, but it's not really needed. Then for the jewelry, this is the Stone of Jordan physical. That's a pretty good one. But you can also use other items here. You can, like for example, the Convention of Elements you could use, because then when you vault on and you have physical rotation going on, everything will just instantly die from the effect of your pain enhancer that you use. Alright, the other ring is the Avarice Band, cooldown and crit chance, crit damage. That's basically the desired stat. You always want to have crit chance in that setup. That's why the Stone of Jordan here with crit chance is preferable over a Stone of Jordan where you have crit damage, for example. You want the maximum crit chance that is possible. Because if you crit, you kill the elites in one shot. If you don't crit, you don't kill them, no matter what. So you want to have maximum crit chance. Alright, the amulet the same here. Physical crit. This is a perfect amulet for it with Cull Weak on it. Pretty hard to get, but you can use any amulet. It's not really important. It just reduces your efficiency a little bit if you don't have any of the items I have here. You just need 3 pieces of the Shadow set, 2 pieces of the Sage set, and I think you need Ingeom, because otherwise the cooldown on Fan of Knives starts to get, yeah, it's a little bit disturbing then to play it. You would have to switch over to fire, and that's not a good option in my opinion. Alright, these were the items. Let's check the cube just once more. Here, Lord Greenstone fan in the cube. Varsician Arm Guards here for more speed, and the Ring of Royal Grandeur, of course, otherwise you don't get the effect from the Sage set, and you want that. And let's go to the skills. Skills, Impale Impact. I use this one because, well, you can use any one. It doesn't do any damage. It's just there to give you travel speed with this belt here. Impale, Vault at no cost. You can use any rune of Impale for that. I'm using this one because like that you can just impale the Rift Guardian once, so he doesn't move away or teleport or anything, and then you just kill him with Fan of Knives. And this is Assassin's Knives that I use here. I like that that rune of Fan of Knives very much, since I realized that those long-ranged knives that are thrown from that rune, first off, they are long-ranged, and second, they can hit a target that has already been hit by the initial kind of explosion of Fan of Knives. So you get double damage. Like, it's still less than the pinpoint accuracy, but it's at low cooldown, and it's a physical effect. And since we have Pain Enhancer in, and we want to kill trash as we go by, the physical one is actually preferable. Also, it happens quite often that stuff dies instantly on the release of the Fan of Knives, and then other monsters are killed by the knives at long range, and this is pretty cool. I like that. The other runes are like Fan of Daggers that stuns, and Knives Expert at a hatred cost, no cooldown. You could potentially use this one in this setup, remove Ingeom, use the Lord Greenstone's fan, and then cube or use the Cinder Coat. That could work as well. I think it would be approximately at the same efficiency, but I just like that physical style with Impale and stuff. Bladed Armor is also completely useless in that setup. Pinpoint accuracy, you don't need that additional damage. And on top of that, since standard Fan of Knives has 10 seconds cooldown, and now if you use a 10 seconds cooldown reduction in Geom, you will have just the standard base cooldown of stuff like that. That would be 0.5 seconds. And you want that. Pinpoint accuracy will only get you down to 5 seconds, and then you have your normal cooldown reduction. So yeah, it could be good as well, but yeah, again, I just prefer Assassin's Knives because it's enough to kill the stuff. If you feel like this is not enough, you can actually switch over to Pinpoint accuracy as well if you have high cooldown reduction and a 10 seconds reduction in Geom. Could be at the same power. I think it's up to you. I think they're all usable, these setups. Then Volt Action Shot. I use Action Shot because it releases automatically 4 arrows that do critical hits. And a critical hit, I don't have it in the inventory right now, a critical hit on Pain Enhancer will trigger the damage effect, and this is what you like. And so this is the preferable rune of Volt. You can use Rattling Roll if you want to play on the safe side a little bit more, but this is T10. You will not feel any damage other than Molten Explosions. So all the others, like this one, remove the discipline cost and get cooldown. This is just the same as with Fan of Knives. You will not be able to spam Volt with that. So, you will end with a Volt that has 0.5 seconds cooldown, and that's not desirable. You don't want that. You will lose speed. Trail of Cinders. These trails don't do critical hits, and so you cannot trigger Pain Enhancer with that. So this is actually not a good choice. Action Shot is the way to go for that. Okay, then I have Shadow Power. I chose Well of Darkness because of the color of the wings. You see, with a 3-piece or 4-piece shadow set, you can basically only select the color of the wings, like green or blue or whatever. I prefer the blue ones. It's up to you. Companion, Wolf Companion for more damage, and with the Ingeom active, I have 50% cooldown reduction already, and then Ingeom active, that means the Wolf is up permanently. You really have permanent uptime of that, and this is a good damage buff. That's something that you like. Vengeance, Dark Heart, because you don't need any hatred. Don't need it. You need Vengeance for the damage buff, and since you don't need any hatred or anything else, you can just go for the Dark Heart rune, which buffs your toughness. So you have a little bit safer life in Torment 10, which is not really that important. The passives I use are Ambush, of course, Single Out to kill the Rift Guardian a little bit faster, but you can also use something else like Tactical Advantage instead of Single Out. It increases your speed after vaulting. Yeah, it's up to you. You can use whatever you like. You can also use Hot Pursuit for more movement speed, but then I think Tactical Advantage is better than that. I have Cold a Week here in here currently, which is not really desirable. You want to have Blood Vengeance there, so you can, if it happens that you vault on after the effect of the belt is gone, you will drain your resources, you will drain your discipline, and if you have Blood Vengeance in, that's not a problem. Like, see, no cost, and suddenly boom, 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 and if you don't realize, you cannot vault anymore. So you need the effect of the belt again. Boom, here. And if that happens, you will suddenly stand still in the rift, and while you're used to the fast vaulting, it will feel like, what is going on? I can't move, what? And yeah, you need to refill the discipline. It just feels a little bit better. Also, if you use Impale on a regular basis, like you vault 4 times or 5 times and then you throw your Impale and stuff like that, you will drain your hatred slowly. And that's also why Blood Vengeance is a good choice in the passive skill selection. I use Awareness because I don't want to stop when I'm picking up Death's Breath because of some Molten Explosions, so I just stay there, pick Death's Breath up and vault away. And sometimes I'm just too slow, or I get blocked by a Waller Elite that is close by, and then I will just proc my passive. And that's why. Other than that, you don't really need it. Okay, and the Amulet, as you have seen, is Cull the Weak, and that's basically it. That's the setup. You can farm very, very efficiently in Torment 10, even in 4-player games, depending on your gear and Paragon, of course, but it is pretty efficient for Death's Breath, even though other classes can be faster at that. But I think it's something cool. I can even one-shot Rift Guardians in 4-player games in Torment 10, so yeah, why not? If you want to have Death's Breath fast and at the same time you want to play your Demon Hunter, use this setup. This is the one to go. It's much, much better than the alternative Natalia setup for Death's Breath, because you get the 1200% weapon damage bonus here. For the Natalia setup, you cannot get that. You need to use Focus and Restraint, and that automatically means that you don't have a Stone of Jordan, you don't have Avarice Band, because you need to use a Ring of Royal Grandeur, and that will dramatically reduce your efficiency when you use the Natalia set. So Death's Breath and Demon Hunter equals this setup. This is the best. Hey folks, what is this here? this is the strongest setup that you can have that includes the shadow set for pushing greater rifts. And as it looks now, and no one really did the pure math about that, it can even rival the currently highest ranking Demon Hunter setup with the Shimizu spec. And that is because the gameplay is so much easier. The Shimizu spec, people think it's very difficult to play, but that's mainly because it's hard to get below 25% life without proccing your cheat death passive or without dying and then staying there. But the gameplay itself is pretty simple. And here you don't have anything like that. You don't have any problems like that. And boom, you can blow stuff up, even in G90 here. And the gear is really, it's not optimized, the gear that I have here. It's not bad, of course. I have high Paragon, but it is not defined by high Paragon and perfect gear because it's not a Legacy of Nightmares setup, and still does a horrible amount of damage, at least in the Demon Hunter world. Alright, but what is it? You can see I have the full companions up there on the screen, and it's of course with 2 pieces of the shadow bonus. It doesn't have the 6-piece bonus and not even the 4-piece bonus of the shadow set, which is basically a proof that the shadow set in itself, it doesn't synergize, it doesn't make any sense, it's just too weak and it's mainly unusable in most aspects of that game. I have showed you one exception to that, but this is also only utilizing basically 2 pieces of the shadow set and Fan of Knives, just as this, but this one is a version for high greater rifts. And you can see the progress here in G90. It's pretty interesting, and yeah, there's a lot to it. And the highest clear so far done by that is G95 by a guy with 1800 Paragon levels. So yeah, I think it can go up to 100 and maybe even above, depending on the player and the gear, of course. But you can see I'm walking through everything, and they're not doing damage to me. They're completely unimportant what happens here. And in the end, this rift here, it gave me rank 28 after I cleared it. Here I got Sand Shaper in the end. Let's see here. Yeah, in 15 seconds he's about to die. And the beginning of the fights against the Rift Guardian is just you stack Bane of the Stricken with the generator that you have until you start killing him, and then you can just, like, for 10 seconds you stack another few stacks of Stricken, and then you wait 20 seconds, boom, until your Fan of Knives is charged, and then you can kill it. Alright, but how's that setup working? How's that going? I have that setup here. It is a Demon Hunter with the Shadow set, as I said, but it also has 2 pieces of the Marauder gear. These are 2 gloves, shoulders, helm, and pants are Shadow and Marauder mixed, depending on what items you have, where you have the best items. And then you use the Acula Cuirass for more toughness, and Illusory Boots for the ability to move through monsters, because you don't want to use Vault here. And the reason I show you this is why I have it here in the skill bar. If you activate Vengeance and you Vault, your Vengeance will shoot, and that will mean that you do some critical hits on monsters, and you don't want that because you have the Sharpshooter passive. So you cannot use that. You cannot use Vault, even though it might be nice for that setup. So you have to go for Smokescreen and Shadow Power Gloom, which buffs your toughness. It's not bad. So, but how's it working actually? It is a setup with, as you have seen, 2 pieces Shadow, 2 pieces Marauder. The Marauder is just there for toughness. It has the Lord Greenstone fan. In this case, this is a bad weapon, but it's ancient, it's got nice damage rolls, but the legendary effect is at 174, it can go to 200, so I lose like 15% damage alone from that. And I have cost reduction here. It only helps with casting Shadow Power, but that's it. And so cost reduction here is pretty pointless. Ideal case for damage, you want to have area damage here. Ideal case for survival, you want to have vitality here. Both are pretty good, but I would go for area damage because I play softcore, and if I die, it doesn't matter. If you play hardcore, this is very viable. I will show you later. This is extremely viable in hardcore, much more than the Shimizu spec or the standard Legacy of Nightmares Fan of Knife setup. This is amazing for hardcore, trust me. Alright, let's go for the offhand. Offhand is a holy point shot. Lightning damage, dex, wit, fan of knives. Attack speed doesn't do anything here, it just helps stacking Bane of the Stricken a little bit faster in the end, but it's not too important. So that's why, even especially for hardcore, you might be able to swap that out for a lidless wall that comes with lightning damage. In this case it has crit chance, you don't really want that, but it doesn't hurt you because sharpshooter doesn't suffer from that. But you could use cooldown reduction much more here. But for the offense, you would like to have a holy point shot because you can have fan of knives damage, and instead of the vitality you could use area damage. Once again, this is all about area damage and stacking all the damage buffs that you can get. But you can pull that off. It's pretty simple to pull that off actually. Alright, then for the items, the gloves, as in other items, you want crit damage, you want area damage. In this case I have dex and cooldown as well. Cooldown could be replaced by vitality, but you should remove crit damage. If you cannot remove the crit damage, it doesn't really matter, because this is one of the points that makes this build so cool, because it's so easy to gear. You could go for gloves like this. Crit chance, crit damage, area damage, just remove the cooldown. It's okay to use it like that. You don't really benefit from the crit chance, but you also don't suffer a lot from it. In this case I just go for the cooldown ones. Same with the shoulders, area damage, fan of knives damage, dex and life percent I do have here. Life percent would be better replaced by vitality, straight vitality, or cooldown reduction, depending on what you want, but you don't really need high cooldown reduction, because this is also a build that evolves around fan of knives, and it's easy to have vengeance up for the damage buff when you want to start and kill stuff with fan of knives. So you don't really need cooldown reduction. The base cooldown reduction that you get from the helm and the paragon is actually enough. So helm, pure toughness, dex, wit, life, secondary resist, ideally it would be physical resistance, pants, dex, wit, all res, life after each kill is also pretty nice in that setup. Works very well, and you can just change shadow and marauder gear just where you have the best. 2 pieces of each and you're happy to go. Here, Aquila Cuirass, that's a very good one. Dex, wit, fan of knives damage, and physical resistance. These are the desired stats, and yeah, you can, if you find an item like that, you can just augment it. Then the boots, illusory boots. I have ancient ones. As I said, you don't need ancient ones. If you don't have ancient boots, just whatever. It doesn't matter. The only item where ancient is really good is the weapon, because you get like 30% damage buff from that. But all the other items, it's just a minor difference. And it will just, overall, if all these items are non-ancient compared to ancient, you will just drop like 4, 5 Greater Rift levels, and that's it. Maximum, absolutely maximum. Even less probably. Right, then the braces. I have Wraps of Clarity here. When I cleared G90, I used Ancient Path and Defenders. You can also use Nemesis braces to get more elites. But yeah, each one has a pro and a con. The con of the Nemesis braces is that when you have the Rift Guardian, you fight the Rift Guardian, and you have a power pylon, for example, and you just grab the power pylon when you want to blow up the Rift Guardian, and then suddenly you encounter an elite with Wormhole and arcane lasers and whatever that is very difficult to fight, and will pull you away all the time. This might completely screw your run. So yeah, it could be very good. It can be very good if you have the decent map with a fair amount of pylons, where you can spawn elites that you can actually kill, which is not a given. Killing yellow elites is not too easy in any setup in Greater Rifts, in high Greater Rifts. So this might be an option. Then there's the Ancient Path and Defenders that I used, and you might wonder, you're not attacking in that setup, you're just waiting for Sharpshooter to do the trick and then blow it up. So why Ancient Path and Defenders? And this is because I have the Templar with lightning damage weapon, Thunder Fury, and those rings, Word Ward ring, that lightning damage has a chance to stun, and the shield that blocks freeze the attacker. Both work. I'm not exactly sure if it works on the legendary effect here. I still have to test it. If it doesn't work on the legendary, on this chain lightning that the weapon produces, you should actually swap that out for how's that? There's a dagger, the freezing dagger. I think I don't have it here right now, with which you can do that. One very important thing for that setup, the Templar must have 0% crit chance, because when he crits, which is completely stupid, when he crits, he will reset your sharpshooter passive. Stupid. Doesn't make any sense, but that's just how it is. So, yeah, and with this with the potential stun from the Templar and the Ancient Path and Defenders, you're a little bit more safe. But you can also use the Reps of Clarity. They will make a Rift Guardian fight much easier. Or if you play hardcore and you feel in danger from something, you might be able to survive and move out with the Reps of Clarity when you just say, yeah, fuck off, I want to run away to safety. And then this will help a lot. Alright, then the last armor slot. This is the Sash of Knives I have here. This is a legacy one from patch 2.1, I believe. It has Fan of Knives damage on it. You can re-roll it to Ancient. This is just, it's stupid that things like that are possible. In Seasoned you won't have that, and then you just replace it with Thunder Gods for maximum damage. Alright, so much for these items. Let's go to the cube. Here, it's Dawn cubed. Zoe's Secret, because of all the pets that you get from the Marauder setup. If we remove them, right here, I just put this one back, I have almost 160 million toughness. If I remove that, it drops to almost 60 million. So this is it's amazing. It's a big difference. You need that to survive. And then Convention of Elements. And now comes something that makes this build very viable for hardcore. You see, I have 158 million toughness unbuffed. You can, in this setup, you can use the Zoe's belt, preferably one with 9% legendary effect, because this is such a big difference. Use that in the belt slot. Look at the toughness here, and use the Cloak of the Garwolf. 340 million toughness. Just like that. And then, if you want to go even further, you can remove the Stone of Jordan, replace it with, for example, a Convention of Elements, and put the Elusive Ring here. And now let's go there. Remember what the toughness was unbuffed before with the offensive setup? That was 160 million. Now this unbuffed is almost 350 million, and now let's go full ham on the buffs. Oh yeah, you can for hardcore even use the shield. Let's go for that as well. Almost 380 million. And now let's buff this up. Beam, bam, toughness, boom, 4 billion toughness. You are immortal. In solo gameplay, you are immortal with 4 billion. And if you just check for the recovery, that's almost 500 million recovery without the Molten Wild Beast. I have to use that. Let's just put it in, just to showcase that. Let's go full toughness like this, almost 1 billion recovery. Come on, you will not die like that. And something that is not calculated here, that also helps in surviving a lot, is the defensive buff of the Traveler set. So effectively, the maximum toughness you have here in my setup, and you can get close to that pretty easy, is 8 billion toughness. How are you supposed to die like that? That is why I say this setup is extremely viable for hardcore. The gameplay is easy, it's easy to pull off, and yeah, that's about it for that setup. I can just give you one more gameplay hint that will help you get good groups of monsters that you want to blow up with Fan of Knives. The thing is, you have a lot of companions here. Many of those companions do you have. And the companions will engage monsters like Tyrael and Lorath and all the others standing around here. Let's imagine they are monsters. And if you come here, your companions will engage them and fight them, and then the monsters from down here will also come, like the Scoundrel Enchantress will move up, and probably one or two of the companions will just run down there and engage those monsters down there. And that means if you cannot do much area damage, because yeah, you have this range and area damage is even smaller, and you want them to be in one spot, and that just means move away one spot, one screen away, that they will all teleport to you and then engage again, run to Tyrael. But before they are able to engage another monster, those will have followed you to the spot that they can stand here as well, so they will go to that spot. And while you wait for the traveler set to stack to the maximum, you can just stand right behind the line of companions, and you will not get a lot of damage there. And then you can just move in the last moment, wait until the traveler set is up again, make sure that you buff yourself, and blow it up. That's how you do that. So there's one last thing you must know, and this is potentially a bug, and that is about the companions that reset sharpshooter. Here you see I have the full damage here. Yeah, it's full damage, crit chance is 100%, and as I said, the Templar must not have any crit chance or he will reset sharpshooter. But now, and this is something from the old times when the sentries were auto-firing with the Marauder setup, the companions, they will fight, engage, and the damage is down. Damn, we don't want that. That doesn't work. Okay, let's go back to Tristram. And then there's one trick. Just change the rune. It doesn't matter to which rune you change and from which one do you come. Just change it. Go back. You see the damage going up. The crits are happening. And the crit damage stays high and climbs to maximum. Just like that. This is potentially a bug. It's not a game-breaking bug. It shouldn't be, in my opinion, it should be like this all the time, that the companions do not reset your sharpshooter, because the passive is completely pointless due to that fact. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense if a ferret like pisses on something and you lose your crit chance. That makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense anymore because the sentries are not firing on themselves. In the former days they were firing cluster arrows and stuff without you doing anything, and when they would do that at 100% crit chance, that was just too much. But right now, I don't see why they should change it like that. Alright, and that's it. That's the gameplay. Hope you enjoyed that spec and get your nice ranking on the leaderboards. And maybe you will find your fun with that in hardcore as well. Okay, see you. Goodbye next time.